12 has defined it as a piece of you and the Creator, but it's the core energy of your consciousness. It has something that is forever and never changes from past lives to future lives to your current life. That there are things that are always the same in your soul, no matter who you are, how many times you visited the planet, but it's more than that. It actually plays an active part in your life. Did you know that? If indeed the soul represents the most precious, sacred, majestic soul, energy, God part of you, if indeed it does, would it make sense to you that as you shift and change, you are actually imbuing yourself with more of that? And the answer would be yes. Let's rephrase it. Let's turn it around so you'll hear it again. As you find the more and more splendid truths of who you are on this planet, when you start to entangle yourself with the sacredness of who you are accepting more of the soul. In other words, it comes closer to you. Have you heard the word before? Come closer. Many of you have had an experience I'll discuss. My partner had. He was in his 40s when all of this happened to him, when he was presented with something he never expected that was there and it was true and he couldn't deny it. And I showed up in his life. He was not really of the mind, of the attitude, or of the acceptance of any of the metaphysical principles that today he teaches. None of it was there. And so it took longer for him to assume it, to understand it, to work with it, and to teach it. And in those times, almost 3 years, there was channeling to him. And when he finally cognized that which was the truth, he started losing his friends. Does this sound, perhaps, like a familiar story to you? And when he would talk to them, they would say something to him. They would say, Lee, it's not that you're doing something we don't understand, it's just that you changed. You're not the same person you were before that was our friend. You're different now. You act different now. You don't want the same things now. They even said, and you're not as fun now. And so what happened to him, you might ask, that would change him so dramatically that even those who befriended him before were not interested in him now? It's almost like he took on a new persona and a new personality walked in. The truth is this. He assumed and imbued more of his soul energy in him. It created a softer person, a more wise person, a person who wasn't interested in some of the worldly things that his friends used to be interested in, a person perhaps who was starting to practice the mastery that we teach. And it changed him forever. How many of you right now watching have had similar situations where you look back 10 years perhaps, or for some of you even more recently, and say, I'm not the person I used to be. And you say those words, and they're literal, and you aren't. What has happened to you is that at some level, dear ones, you crossed the bridge. You took on something that was more precious to you than you ever knew about. You didn't even know it. The soul came closer. That's new information. What happens, you might say, if the entire soul visited a human body, and that's called ascension? Don't expect it soon. But what you can do and what you have done and what this program has been all about is to connect with the soul. So let's do it. Every single week, we ask you to go across the bridge. And across that bridge, there'll be something. Sometimes it's very similar to you. We do exercises that are the same as we did before, and sometimes they're new. If you look at that bridge, it represents going into the unknown. And it is an unknown quantity. That soul of yours contains everything that is. All the physics that has been undiscovered is there. All the family that you've loved and lost is there. All the family that's the future is there. So difficult to understand. So these things are nonlinear, and we invite you to all of them. Come with me. Let's cross the bridge. I want you to move through the veil. Indeed, it is a metaphor of moving to the other side of the veil. Not something you do in death, something you do because you can. Visiting that which is precious and sacred and secret, perhaps. It's your own soul. And when you get there, you never see what's actually there. You can't. Not while you're here. Instead, you get to see whatever your imagination says might be there. Beautiful. Every single one of you has a different idea of what might be there. Some of you see very little. And that's okay too. It just tells you that your imagination is not able to conjure up anything that's even close to what it might be. But the feelings are there, and the compassion and the love can fill you up completely right now, even before you go into the theater. Go through that door with me that we go through almost every time, into that space that will contain the theater and the round. And today there is no audience, but there's still someone to meet. Perhaps we've done something like this before, perhaps we have not, but not quite like this. We're on the stage. There are 2 chairs. And the chairs are not facing an audience, they're facing one another. One is empty, and one will contain you. I want you to climb the stairs, and I want you to sit in the chair. You sit in the chair, and there is an expectation, perhaps, of a guest that you're going to talk to one-on-one. And there'll be a special guest. Now, in this show, this program, this meeting, this event, we've always asked you to meet someone. Sometimes we've asked you to meet yourself. There have been times when we've taken you into a hall of past lives where you got to see each one of yourselves and even your ancestors. Perhaps to even talk to them and interview them. We've had times when you sat on the stage and you've been given gifts from those in the past. The gifts of dropping those things which perhaps might bother you this time. You've done so many things. You've met so many. Anything is possible in this space. Who's going to show up in that chair? You still don't know. Some of you might have an idea. But it's not really anything we have done, not in this way before. What's in your soul that is always the same, all the time? We've told you this, and some of you can guess. There is an energy there which represents your core, which is there every single lifetime, no matter which lifetime, how many you've had. There is a similarity, a core of consciousness. There has to be. Otherwise, you would not learn from one life to another. There are many watching this program right now who are very old souls. Don't be fooled by how young they may be. Very old souls, and they know it. And that's why they're here, and that's why they're watching. Who's going to be in that chair? I'll tell you. And they're not going to come from the audience. They're going to come from you. It's a hard thing to visualize, that you may step out of yourself for a moment, and a piece and a part of you is going to sit in the chair across from you, but it's not going to look like you. Your imagination cannot conjure up the majesty of what this looks like. It's the peace of God that is you, and you have called it your higher self. That which is the same every lifetime begins to materialize in the chair across from you. There are those who say that it's angelic, because you are angelic at a certain point. You may not think so, but you are when you're not here. And you are meeting the angelic part of yourself, that higher self. It doesn't look like you. I say it because it may not have a gender. I want you to imagine the most beautiful angel that you have ever seen in any painting or drawing or imagination. Gossamer-like, perhaps. You can't identify the gender, perhaps. But it's beautiful, and it emanates so much love that it's even hard to breathe. And you realize it came out of you. Right out of you. And it sits in the chair across from you and looks at you. And it may identify itself and say, "Greetings, dear ones, I am you, the core part of you." And it will say to you and look at you and say, "I am forever, just like you." If you can see this, imagine it. There'll be a healing that will wash over your body right now as you recognize the importance of what I am telling you, the reality that I am telling you, that there is a piece and a part of you that lives within you and without of you, that is the core of God. Born and made in His image. You've read it. That's the image you're looking at. It's the image of love. It's the image of compassion. It's the image of God. That is who you are as you walk on the planet, and now you have actually met yourself, the core self, the one that never changes. What would you say now? What are you going to ask? And the answer is this: you don't have to ask anything. You can sit there and enjoy it and be loved and be in that compassionate field of the peace of God that is actually you. Did you expect to meet this one ever? Most would say no, unless I died, and then I would. It is the hero's journey, dear ones, that you are on, a test of consciousness on this earth of light and dark. You're right where you should be. And that's what this majestic angel is going to tell you, in all love. Dear ones, this is the Circle of 12 at its best, giving you information that can last a lifetime, that's real. I am Kryon. I want you to stay. I want you to stay and just imagine being in that field of love for these moments left. There are very few on this planet who would believe that this is possible. It's not only possible, it can happen. And for some of you now, it's happening. Stay and be loved. And so it is.